That's setup day on Friday. Everglades Challenge 2026. It's pretty hot, pretty calm, a little bit of a headwind, and it sounds like that'll be the forecast for the week. So, looking forward to some paddling in the heat. It's taking a little bit of adjustment to get used to the heat. Well, we're not used to it yet, but it just makes me want to sleep. But I think the gear is all set up. We've got some new padding for the heels here, which is pretty cushy. And I've got some padding for my shins, which is nice. And we're trying out the map tattoo. And Lauren will run the old 76 in the bow. Anything else, Lauren?
Nope.
You pretty pumped?
Yeah.
Yep. Wish us luck.
The sea. More sailing. All right. I think it's Carnage. Yeah, got the giant.
Here.
Fishman. Here.
It's 10 o'clock on Saturday. We're about 3/4 of the way across Tampa Bay. It's been mostly pretty calm, but the breeze picked up a little bit here. It's like a little bit on the nose, but the sail's helping us close hauled. There's the rest of the fleet going around the corner. Slightly delayed start due to a ship. We started as close to 9 a.m. at the start, but so far the weather looks pretty good. It's 12:45 on Saturday, and we're just getting into Sarasota Bay. And the good news is that the wind was forecast to come around to the west, kind of a sea breeze. That was a surprise from the earlier long range forecast, and it's even doing it earlier than predicted. It's supposed to last for several hours into the evening, I think, so this is good news for us because we're sailing, doing almost 4 miles an hour without paddling, so that's great news because the forecast earlier didn't look like this was likely to happen. What do you say, Lauren? It's 3:15, we're at Bay Island. We made good time on Sarasota Bay because the west wind filled in a bit, so we were able to sail. And that was a nice surprise. You can see the bridges back there. Passed a couple of regattas on the bay as we usually do. So I think we're doing pretty well so far today. What do you say, Lauren? Doing good. It's 5 p.m. and we're having a nice slow sail down Little Sarasota Bay. The wind has come around to kind of northwest now, so it's actually behind us a little bit. So this is really splendid right now. We weren't expecting this from the longer term forecast, but we'll take it. "6:30 p.m. at sunset on Saturday. We're getting a little bit of thunder and lightning. Looks like there's these little rain cells that set up along the sea breeze front, but maybe they'll just stay over there a little bit inland along the sea breeze front and not bother us. We still have a light tailwind here, very light, but it's helping us to move a little bit. And we're coming down Blackwater Bay toward Venice, approaching Venice. So I think we're doing pretty well today, and this sailing we've had is great. Venice Inlet, it's about 7:30. Well, we're approaching this camp that we had identified just south of the Venice Canal, and then a big headwind came up and a heavy downpour. So yeah, the last 10 minutes or so coming into the campsite was a heavy drenching downpour, but at least we were close to this spot here. Looks like a great spot, so should be able to camp. Hopefully this rain will stop soon. What do you think, Lauren?
I think it's divine providence. Hi everyone. It's the first night of the Everglades Challenge. It's around 9:52 p.m. and we are stopped at the end of Venice Inlet, Venice Canal. And we had sort of an abrupt stop, even though we were sort of thinking that we were ready to pull off, so that we would not have to have a long slog to checkpoint 1 and then find a campsite after. So we were kind of looking for a campsite, and then all of a sudden the sky opened up and it started pouring. So luckily we found a campsite. It's still kind of raining, but it's not pouring anymore. And we're making dinner. We're hoping we can wait for the rain to stop to set up the tent. We'll go to bed, and hopefully we can get up nice and early after a decent sleep to get to checkpoint 1 in the morning and then keep going. So I think we did about 45 miles today, which isn't too bad. Okay, bye.
Well, it's 4 a.m. on my watch, but it's actually 5 because the time changed. Decided to be slackers last night and set the alarm for 5 hours of sleep instead of 4 on the phone, but then with the time change we only ended up getting 4 hours of sleep, so we didn't end up slacking after all. So we stayed on that little sandbar that's a new site that had been washed over by a hurricane, so pretty good spot. A little bit of a steep bank, but not terrible. And a couple other tribers rolled in after we had gone to bed, not sure who.
It's a class 3.
I guess we've got a good start today, and we should probably mix up some spiz today so we don't end up landing at camp totally exhausted. but looks like there's a little breeze coming from the east, so we'll have to see if we can sail some on Lemon Bay, which would be nice. But anywho, it's another day. Anything from the bow, Lauren?
No, we're ready for another great day.
It's 10:30 on Sunday. We cleared checkpoint 1, got in there around 9. We were able to sail some on Lemon Bay, just kind of a very, very light beam reach, but the sail was helping some. And now we got a light headwind. The sailboats are tacking up the channel here away from checkpoint 1. And it looks like it should be another hot one. What's new in the bow, Lauren?
There's a dolphin over there.
Looks like there's a dolphin. We've seen a bunch of dolphins so far. And I think we spooked a manatee early this morning. Saw some roseate spoonbills. I think Lauren saw a spotted eagle ray. And we saw a big stingray near Tampa Bay. But anyway, just keep pulling. The little sailboat's trying to make it under the bridge. Go, guys, go. Whoa, I think they made it. It's 1:45 on Sunday. We're coming through Bull Bay, getting ready to start our Charlotte Harbor crossing. It was a long slog upwind from checkpoint 1 through Gasparilla Sound. That took a few hours and was hard work. Once we turned through Bull Bay, then we're able to sail close hauled, and hopefully that'll hold for our crossing. Although we're hoping for a wind shift toward the west, which was predicted by Windy, but hasn't happened yet. Well, we have a nice sailing breeze here on the Charlotte Harbor crossing. So we're able to chill out a little bit. Lauren's trying to dry out. She got a lap full from a wake a few minutes ago.
It's also nice to do a child's pose.
Yeah, and stretch out. This is what we were hoping would happen. It's 5 p.m. on Sunday. We just went under the Matlacha Bridge, and we had a great sail from Bull Bay all the way across Charlotte Harbor and down to Matlacha. That took a few hours, and we were going 4 to 5 miles an hour without paddling really, so that was pretty exciting. And now we're thinking about how far we want to get today. Ideally, we'd be at Panther Key or Camp Lulu Key tomorrow if we want to make our reservations in the Everglades. So we have some distance to make up since we didn't get as far on the first day as in some years. And there's sailing conditions now, it looks like, so we should probably try to go further beyond Picnic Key. So it could be another 20 miles or so today, but we'll see what happens. What's the news from the bow?
It's a great day.
Sunset on Sunday on the approach to Sanibel Causeway. I'm fixing us some dinner so that we can go further. Can't say where yet, but our breeze is kind of dying, but it's supposed to be calm. So could go outside to Lover's Key or possibly Wiggins if we want to go crazy. We'll see. It's 8:45 on Sunday. We decided to pull in here, even though it's a little bit early. It's kind of a shallow sloping beach. There were some thunderstorms, and after getting stormed on last night, we didn't want to get stormed on the Gulf, and we figured we could just sleep now and then paddle, or paddle and then sleep, and maybe it wouldn't make a difference. So anyway, I guess this is it for the night. We'll have to drag it pretty far to get to the high water mark since this is a shallow beach. What do you think, Lauren?
At least maybe we won't have to drag it in the morning.
Maybe.
Hi everybody, it's 10:04 on Sunday night, day 2 of the Everglades Challenge, and we are just going to bed on Bunch Beach, which is just before we get to Fort Myers, so we can hear a little road noise, which is different. And we decided to stop early again because thunderstorms were threatening, and we didn't want to be paddling the coastal waters of Naples Coast during that condition. Also, we're ready for bed. And we had a good day of sailing, a little bit of slogging as well, and our total mileage so far is around 96 miles, which is pretty much on track, maybe slightly behind where we'd want to be, but we're going to target hopefully Panther Key tomorrow so that we can get back on track. That should be a nice long day, and we're hoping for another day of fairly calm conditions in the morning, followed by westerly winds, which is what we had today. And let's see, we saw lots of dolphins, a manatee scared Mark, and that's about it, I think.
It's 4:30 on Monday. We're heading south from our camp just north of Fort Myers Beach. So we're paddling along Fort Myers Beach now. There's a very light breeze. It's kind of a little bit on the nose, so it's not really helping us. most of a moon up there. But pretty good conditions to paddle down the coast. Having a little breakfast here on my Belvitas. So that makes it feel like home. A little bit behind where we would ideally want to be, but I guess we're still moving along. It's 11 a.m. Monday. We're heading down the Naples coast. There was a light east wind this morning from the wee hours until maybe about 9, and then it died. But now we're just starting to see the ripples on the water and a little breath of wind from the west, which was in the forecast. So we're hoping that that west wind is going to fill in and help us to get to Panther Key or something like that. So it's very hot, and we're seeing some wildlife though. The flat calm water makes them more visible, so we saw several turtles and some dolphins. Earlier we saw some manatees nosing up. We took a little nap earlier. It's a long haul, but if we can average better than 3 miles an hour for 100 hours, we'll be there. It's 2 o'clock on Monday. Working our way south. The light west wind that came up midday was very light, but helped us along a little bit. Then it got a little stronger and turned to the southwest. So we were just pulling into that for a while. It's kind of choppy, but we just popped the sail up here and it looks like very close to the wind. It's helping us out some. We're 5.5 miles from Big Marco. Hopefully once we turn there, we'll be able to sail more. It's a beautiful day. The Keewaydin Island shore there is nice and natural. Beautiful water. Saw a lot of dolphins. We saw a shark attacking some fish. That was exciting. Well, we finally got our tailwind. It's 5:30 and we're going under the bridge at Marco. And we have a nice tailwind here heading up the Big Marco River, and I think the tide was also with us. So we're doing 4 to 5 miles an hour here, so that's always fun. It's 6:30. We just made it out the south end of Marco River. There's Coon Key. I think it might have been a record run of Marco River. So we were sailing for much of it, although paddling at the same time, but it was mostly a tailwind through Marco River. So that's pretty exciting. We debated as to whether we should try to find some more water, but we decided we probably have enough. So we should try to get Panther Key, or maybe even Camp Lulu Key, since it's supposed to be some east wind tomorrow, which would be a headwind. So there's still a little bit left on this west wind, so hopefully we can have some sailing here. I kind of figured it would probably die as soon as we got here, but it's still blowing a little bit, so hopefully that'll get us on the way there. Any updates from the bow, Lauren?
It's been a really good day.
Saw a lot of wildlife.
Lots of wildlife. We got really far.
Yeah.
And it's been really hot.
We might have overestimated the miles to Panther Key because we were saying 60, but I don't think it's that much.
Hi everyone. It is about 11 o'clock on Monday, I think, of the Everglades Challenge, and we're just crawling into our tent on Camp Lulu Key, which is just outside of the Everglades National Park. It's actually further than we expected to make it today. We were targeting Panther Key, but it was still daylight when we got to Panther, so we kept going to Camp Lulu. Today was another mixed bag of slogging and sailing. We had some good wildlife encounters, especially dolphins, a sea turtle right next to the boat that was just hanging out on the surface, and we actually accidentally tapped it with our ama and it dove, so that was fun. And we saw a shark attacking a school of fish, which was cool. But yeah, it's been a very long, very, very hot day. We left the beach at about 4 a.m. just north of Fort Myers Beach, and so we're pretty tired. We're gonna be in Chokoloskee tomorrow. Not sure exactly what time, and I think we'll see Mom and Dad Fry there, and then we'll keep going onward to the Wilderness Waterway. Bye.
It's 5:40 on Tuesday, taking off from Camp Lulu Key. This was a good camp. The bugs were not terrible. There were still bugs, but you know, not terrible. And then the place seems pretty well rearranged since we were here in 2018 last time, probably from the hurricanes and stuff. Getting ready to head out toward checkpoint 2. Looks pretty calm. Predicted east wind at 5 knots, so we decided to pack up the sailing rig. We managed to get here, so we're kind of back on track for our normal schedule, but might be windy Thursday on Florida Bay, so we'll see how that goes, but one step at a time. I guess we decided not to take the shorter coastal route and just go through the Wilderness Waterway like we always have, partly because of the bad Florida Bay forecast on Thursday, better on Friday. But anyway, that's the scoop. It's 10 till 8. We just came to the end of Indian Key Pass to Choco Bay. The sun's just coming up. We're putting on our sunblock and sunglasses. And there's some no-see-ums here, so we're just kind of rubbing them in along with the sunblock and the sand.
It's like kind of if you butter up a piece of sandpaper and then kind of dab your face with it.
You get some exfoliation.
Well, I don't know if you exfoliate, but then it just sticks.
And then rub it in.
Yeah. Exfoliation and refoliation all in one.
Yeah. Everything's pretty slimy because it's really hot and humid, and then everything's salty, so you get that nice slime layer. But it's pretty. Paddling into the Everglades. So,
My battery just died.
uh-oh, dead battery. Alright, well, final leg to checkpoint 2 here. "5:30 on Tuesday. We're going through Plate Creek on our way to Rogers River. I'm fixing some dinner. We decided it's better to eat dinner at dinner time than when we arrive at camp really exhausted and too many things to do with the bugs eating us up. And it's been so hot, you know, we just didn't feel very much like eating last night at camp. So anyway, better to eat at dinner time. And we've got a little ways to go yet to Rogers River, maybe 15 miles. And we tried to do the math. It's like to catch the low tide at the Nightmare, and it's like I really want to get there at low tide so we can have the currents with us in Broad River, Harney River, and Shark River, which is like all day paddling, so you don't want the currents to be against you all day. And maybe another motorboat coming up the creek here. Uh-oh. So as I was saying, I want to catch the low tide so we can have currents favorable all day. Low tide's going to be at like 2 a.m. so we can get there a couple hours later. Anyway, we figured we should leave the Rogers River Bay Chickie by 1 or 2 a.m. at the latest, which we would prefer to get more of a full night's sleep, but it is important to catch the tide right there. So we're thinking maybe we could bivvy at the Chickie and save some time setting up camp and taking down camp. It's always fun to see the swallowtail kites swooping over the mangroves. So good to be out in nature. Hi, nature. Okay, Lauren, what do you see?
It's the coolest phosphorescence ever. When I paddle, I make like a glowing ball that goes back to you, and there's sparkles inside it. So it's like a giant sparkle ball that goes back to you.
And that swirls around and lasts a pretty long time.
It's quite cool.
Yeah, sometimes you see the very fine ones, but these are like bigger, almost pea-sized green ones that swirl around. No way you can take a picture of that, but it's pretty cool. Well, we landed at Rogers River Bay Chickie around 9:40, and it's always a puzzle how to tie a boat so it won't end up going under the dock or chafing on the oysters that are encrusted on the piers as the tide goes up and down. But anyway, so we did not a full camp, but just took the tent bag out, and we'll try to See if we can get a few hours of sleep here until about 1 a.m. What do you think, Lauren?
I'm gonna brush my teeth, and hopefully we can get at least a couple hours of sleep, and all the trouble is worth it. Definitely what was worth it was seeing the sparkle balls in the water.
Oh, that was an amazing display of phosphorescence on the way across Rogers River Bay. Probably the most amazing we've seen, and there was a glowing jellyfish that just glowed so bright. It was like a flash. With the big, like the pea-sized green balls, they were just everywhere, and they just kept glowing for a long time in the paddle strokes and all the swirls and the wake of the boat. It was amazing.
Hi everyone, it's Tuesday night on the Everglades Challenge, and we just pulled up to Rogers River Chicky, and it's about 10:25 p.m. We're just gonna have a short sleep here because we want to get up early in the morning so that we can try to time the tides at the Nightmare. But I don't think I'll be able to send this, so just recording it, and hopefully we'll send later after we get to cell service. So it was a good day, hard day. We worked hard paddling, but we got here, and kind of a highlight this evening was the sparkle balls in the water. There was just the most phosphorescence we've ever seen, ever. And every time we put a paddle in the water, it'd be a big glowing ball that we often see, but then inside the ball there were just sparkles everywhere. And at one point we even saw a flash of light that was like almost like lightning underwater. It was so cool. So that made the night paddling worth it. And we're sleeping on the Chicky, just the tent, no sleeping bags, no anything else, because we didn't want to dig everything out, because we'll only get a couple hours of sleep here before we take off. So this will get to you after we're in cell service. Bye.
It's 2:30 on Wednesday. We're heading out from Rogers River Bay Chicky, and so we landed, and then we set our alarm for 1 in the morning for our theory on catching the tides. Yeah, we decided to do like the kind of bivvy, not like a full camp, but we did get the tent out, but we didn't get the sleeping bags and other stuff out because it's a lot of work to unload the canoe and reload it at the Chicky and stuff. So then we kind of slept on minimal padding on the platform and without the sleeping bags, and then it did actually get a little bit cold, which we were surprised because it's been so hot. So we got some sleep. It wasn't like super high quality sleep. Then as we were packing up, pork chop and salty moose pulled up, so it was fun to see them. We got loaded up and headed out, so they'll try the tides a few hours after us, so we'll see who gets the best result out of that. We thought about taking the Cabbage Creek cut, which a number of them had taken last year, and I had a waypoint for the entrance marked, so we kind of went to that waypoint, and then we were like, you know what, like this doesn't show up on my chart, and I don't think there's any way to go wrong once you're in there, but the idea of like meandering back and forth in the dark in the mangroves for an hour or something, hoping to come out the other end, was a little scary, so we decided to bail on that and just stick with what we know. So we're heading toward the Broad River, hoping we'll have favorable currents. Beautiful starry night right now, nice and cool. Just a light breeze from the east. So right now it's beautiful conditions. Probably the first relief from the heat and humidity we've had in a while. What's new from the bow, Lauren?
The moon looks like a slice of orange.
Coming into these creeks on the approach to Broad River Bay, and we were just hitting 4.7 while we were paddling, both of us paddling. But it looks like we're getting some favorable current here, so that's great. It's 5:20 in the morning. We're arriving at the Nightmare entrance. We had a nice run down Broad River, good current. At the Broad River camp, the water level looked really low. Don't know if I've seen it that low before. And there's like creatures splashing around in the water, fairly large creatures. Yeah, there's the light activated fish, but there's some large creatures out there in the river. Not sure what those are. But anyway, I guess we'll go in here in the dark. Hopefully it'll get light pretty soon. Actually, at the bank, the water level doesn't look that low. A few skeeters, but they're not biting too bad. Saw a few eyeballs hanging out by the side.
This one's tricky.
Where do we go, Lauren?
We might have to go around these roots and then take a sharp right. Oh, okay.
It looks pretty thick there.
It's the only way though.
Well, we'll give it a try. Better get my paddle out. Looks like the normal passage to the right is blocked by a low log. So we're going to try cutting a couple roots off here to get through. Should we try that? So we're using this map tattoo GPS for the first time on this trip. Well, at least, we used it in practice, but this is the first time really using it at night. Now one thing, so we're navigating a route here, and there's a route point right there, and there's a very thin dashed line showing us the route. On the Garmin, that would be like the magenta line. But as you can see, you cannot see that line at all because it's a very thin dashed line, and of course it's not a color display, so you're just working with grayscale here. So that line needs to be like way thicker because just can't see it. And then the backlight on the lowest setting is still rather bright for nighttime use. And then there's also these little LEDs up here that I covered up with black tape. One of them blinks all the time, and when the backlight's off, the screen kind of pulses with light a little bit when that LED goes on and off. So that's annoying. But overall, it's pretty good. It just has, mainly that route line needs to be bigger, thicker. "7:30 The water was probably the lowest we've seen in the nightmare, and there were a couple of spots where we could see that the water was too low to take the normal route because of a log blocking it, and we had to find an alternative route, which involved the saw at one point. And there was one point when we wondered if we might have to sit there for a while until the water came up, but we did make it through. It was slow going. And now it's daylight. I was very sleepy, so I laid down for a few minutes and closed my eyes while Lauren kept paddling us. And that worked out pretty well. I was afraid I was going to get a root in the face, but didn't happen. What's the news from the bow, Lauren?
It's a lot less scary in the daytime.
Yeah. We saw some wildlife in there. I think there's a lot more gators around than we see during the day. At one point I saw an orange eye cruising just below the surface of the water. What do you think, Lauren?
Yeah, there were lots of splashes all around us.
Gators being gators.
There's a crab.
Oh yeah, look at that. Little crab. The water's coming in Upper Broad Creek, but that log is still a little too shallow to slide over. Not sure if there's something we can saw here without too much trouble. It's 9:40, we're in Upper Broad Creek. I've had to use the saw a lot more than previous years. It's been slow going, but about half mile from here is where it opens up. So we're just taking a little break. It's actually nice and cool this morning, which is first time for this trip. It's been super hot. So that's refreshing.
So the current situation is that we're stuck on that log, which comes out to here and has us stuck further. It's actually like right under us there. And we're trying to see if we can work our way this way by cutting off some roots to get off that log. You think it's gonna work?
Well, eventually. Might have to wait for the water to get higher.
Also, the water is, well, supposedly coming in.
I feel like we're close. Which math?
242 minus 218. And don't mind my socks. They're stinky.
Why do we have to do math?
Because we want to know how long we have to be paddling for. And
Can you just look at the matrix for Ben Elgra's table?
I put the table away and I just want to know the number that we're... Well, I don't know where this is on the matrix.
Well, we're close to Harney River, Chickie.
It's too late, I put it away. Just do 242 minus 218 is 24 miles. We've got about 24 miles to go.
Okay.
Maybe.
Not terrible.
Plus or minus a few.
And we'll have currents with us all the way, right?
Yeah, that's the plan.
So it should be no problem.
I wonder if I can get my socks to stay. What if they blow in your face?
No thanks. 12:46. We're halfway up the Harney River leg. You see that leaf floating past that root. Well, there's a current against us in the river. It's not very strong at this point, but maybe because we took too long getting through the nightmare because of all the sawing we had to do. But it's not too bad though. And there's also a headwind against us. But again, we've seen stronger ones. But it is quite hot. 2:30, we're heading south on the section between Harney River and Shark River. And yeah, we had a little contrary current on Harney River that increased a bit toward the end and seemed to be able to make about a mile an hour better. Now that we got off Harney River, there's still pretty much a headwind here. Guess it must be like a southeast wind. Forecast was right. Yeah, Pork Chop said we couldn't get the currents right on all three rivers, and well, I guess he's right. But we're getting there. Probably took us at least an hour longer to get through the nightmare than normal because of the, I don't know, there was a lot more wood that we had to saw through. I don't know if that's entirely because of low water, because the water did come up a bit toward the end. It's 4:12. We're doing 20-minute paddles and then a short shade break. Heading through this Shark Creek route to the Watkins Chickee. Beautiful day, although southeast headwind as usual, and pretty hot. It's 5:22. We're arriving at Watson River Chickee. What do you say, Lauren?
Yay, what a big day we had.
Big day. It's not a good time to finish the route to checkpoint 3 because there's white caps out there and that would be on the nose, so we'll catch up on sleep here and hope for better conditions early tomorrow morning.
Hi everyone, it's Wednesday night of the Everglades Challenge. This is another one that we're going to have to just send after we get to cell service. I sent an in-reach message update to Mom and Brian, just letting them know that we're going to plan to leave tomorrow after a long sleep. It was a long day today. Actually, it kind of felt like a long 2 days because we went to bed and got a couple hours of sleep last night before packing it all up and then making it to the nightmare in time for low tide, which meant extremely low water levels. We actually were fine in the water, but there was a lot of roots that we had to work around and logs that we haven't necessarily encountered before. So that was a lot of work. And then a lot of slogging through the wilderness waterway. We're now on Watson Chickee. It's a beautiful sunset. We're actually going to set our alarms for 8 hours because the weather actually looks better if we wait a little bit to leave. And we had some good wildlife encounters today. When we got to the Nightmare, it was still dark, so there was a lot of splashing. Saw some gator eyes, maybe some tarpon swimming. We weren't exactly sure. And then another thing that happened is that when we were huddled up next to a mangrove after the Nightmare, because we were slogging into headwinds in the hot sun and taking a shade break under a mangrove, a couple dolphins swam like just right next to the boat in about 2 feet of water just to see what was going on, because I was making a lot of noise. So that was really cool to see them. We're really tired, and so we're excited to get a nice long sleep on this really fine chickie that we're on at Watson Creek, I guess it is. And we'll send this tomorrow probably. Bye.
It's 4:30 on Thursday. We're just heading out from Watson River Chickie, and there's a little bit less than half a moon up there, and the good news is it's really calm, so we decided to get up a couple hours earlier than we were planning, even though we still got 7 hours of sleep, because the forecast was for a headwind like the whole morning, so it wouldn't have mattered when we got up, but it's calm right now, so we got a chance to get across the rest of Whitewater Bay here, and things are looking good right now. We're hopeful that in the afternoon the wind on Florida Bay is going to turn to the south and a little bit west, so that hopefully we can actually sail. That would be a miracle, because the forecasts earlier didn't look so good. But we're optimistic for a good finish here by the end of the day. What do you think about that, Lauren?
I'm optimistic. It's going to be a good day.
Good day. Huzzah.
Huzzah.
Seven on Thursday. We're about, I don't know, 2 miles from the Coot Bay Canal entrance. So we're most of the way across Whitewater Bay. We had some headwinds, but not the worst we've seen. So we were able to keep it at over 3 miles an hour for our 20-minute intervals. And things are going smoothly. Lauren's pouring a little coffee for our break behind this mangrove island. And then we'll do another 20 and pull into the headwind. This is the canal coming into Coot Bay. Look at that current. It's really ripping. On the nose, of course. It's noon on Thursday. We're setting out from Flamingo, and the hose clamp that holds the lee board in place broke, so we had to rig up these lines here with the help of Spectator and Clueless. Helped us out with testing several ideas and coming up with the final one here. So hopefully that'll work. We can see the sea pearl out there. Unfortunately, it looks like they tacked, so we're hoping the wind's coming around to where we can sail. And it looks like it might be very close, but we'll see. At least it's not the strongest wind we've seen out here, so that's good. But guess we better get to it. We're out in the wind now, heading east on Tin Can Channel, and the lee board rig is holding. We had to add a second line going forward to stop it from flopping forward, but we were able to figure that out. So far so good. The wind is not super strong and it's supposed to get lighter, so we're just going to enjoy it while it lasts here. The sea pearl was just ahead of us. Don't see him right now, but right now I'm happy. That feels good. It was so hot at the boat ramp, I was dripping with sweat trying to fix that lee board. How's that feel, Lauren? I made it to Buoy Key. It's 140. We've had pretty good sailing. Been going, well, 3.5, 4, even 5 miles an hour. So it's a good start. It's 2:30, we're coming into Dump Keys. Seems like the wind's coming a little bit more behind us, which is great. And it's holding up, so we've been going, well, 4.5 to 5 miles an hour, even a little more than 5. So this is awesome. This is how it's meant to be. Oh yeah, we saw a flock of what appeared to be pink flamingos standing in the shallows, so that's a first. It's quite sure they're a little bit far away, but they were definitely pink wading birds with tall legs and long necks, so, you know, really looked like flamingos. Never seen those before. This is Twisty Mile. There's not much of a channel. Maybe it's a foot deeper on that side. Not much room to work with at the end of the channel. we're able to sail on this crossing to Jimmy Channel. It's close to the wind, but we're sailing. So if we can get this done, we can head off a bit and should be able to sail the rest of the way, hopefully, if the wind doesn't change. We can start to see some buildings rising up over the horizon. We're most of the way across Jimmy Channel. Leeward's holding on. Well, things are looking up on the final approach to Jimmy Channel. I'm steering to this cut I saw in the satellite view just north of Jimmy Channel, because we're always having to go very close to the wind to get here, since this is kind of like the southernmost part of the 50 mile route. And there happens to be a channel marker right there where I was steering from my satellite view waypoint, so that's exciting. And it's also exciting that we don't have to paddle. What do you say, Lauren?
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. What do you have there, Lauren?
This is my last
It does the job, but you do get kind of tired of it.
But it's so revitalizing.
It is revitalizing. They got us this far. This is what a Florida Bay crossing is supposed to be like. Hey Lauren, I had a dream the other night. We were in the canoe and it was really dark and there was mangroves all around, roots and branches all muddy and so close we couldn't even move. We shoved the canoe forward, pulled it back, went every which way, and we were just stuck. And we thought we'd just have to sit there and hope the water level goes up. You ever have a dream like that?
Oh my God, it sounds like a nightmare that I had.
No way.
And I woke up.
Just takes a good night's sleep and then you feel better.
Which never happened.
But there's still a little mud there. Well, we're in the Intracoastal Waterway in the final about 4 mile leg to Key Largo to the finish. And sun's getting low, but it's still daytime, so that's exciting. When we woke up this morning, we didn't know how big of a slog it would be, but you know, the slog to checkpoint 3 turned out to be the only slog we had to do today. So I'm pretty excited. Yeah, I don't think we were quite at the fitness level we were in previous years, and on day 1, boy, I was beat and didn't really know if I had it in me to do the long days of paddling, and it was hot, I'll tell you what. Working all day in the heat, day after day and night after night. Didn't really know if we still had it in us, but I was actually super sore, like at camp on the first couple nights. Just to move, this was just really painful. But that part actually got better. Like, I didn't have that level of kind of painful soreness in the later evenings. It was just kind of normal overall soreness and tiredness. So anyway, I'm excited for pizza and beer with Brian at the finish and Lauren's folks. And it's gonna be great to finish. Awesome to have another adventure with Lauren. Okay, we're nearing the finish, so it's time to review the things that could be improved for next time. So obviously we'll have to fix the lee board. Maybe we can upgrade from the hose clamp to a heftier clamp type of thing. But it's good to know that the 2-line system works just as well, pretty much. Well, it's not as convenient, but it does work as well. For the map tattoo, it was working okay. It has some features that are not awesome that I reviewed earlier. The spray cover, all the water does drain through this hole here, so that's something to think about. The new compass was a nice little feature there. And let's see. It was nice to have the padding here. This one I still could remove because it does poke into my leg. The heels do still get sore from steering. I put in this foam. It was probably too soft, I guess, because it's kind of falling apart already. But maybe some padding on the pedals themselves, or just rounding them off so they're not so sharp, could help. And then, yeah, as Lauren mentioned, some kind of rollers or sliders for dragging the canoe, because we're using sticks, which helps quite a bit. But if there was like a stick-like thing that was very light and could be used to slide the canoe over, then that would be worth having. And our butts are still wet all the time, so still some kind of mesh seat would be probably great.
One more.
What is it?
My pocket.
Oh yeah, the pockets are getting saggy.
Pockets.
Yeah, that's true. Then we talked about not bringing the thermos, just bringing some little cans of coffee. Yeah, that's a good idea. Just to minimize the camp chores, because that's the worst, when the mosquitoes are attacking and the chores that we have to do.
We're guessing we'll be there around 8 p.m. And we're really feeling good about this finish because, you know, we're strong. We can do this. And it took a lot of work to get here, but we made it, and we did it together.
We still got it, baby.
We still got it. I love you, Mark.
Love you too.